What is this? Anti-DEI is just becoming an accepted way to be racist, to be sexist. You can't as openly say you don't want women in that field or that you don't want black people. You can say DEI and mean all that because you're too pussy to openly be a bigot. It's weird that dunking on firefighters during a massive fire is what right-wing culture warriors have decided is the best expression of their politics. Starting to think that anti-wokeness has become the new mind virus. I mean, starting to think that, Leighton. I mean, welcome back to reality. Leighton Woodhouse is a former Intercept journalist. He's a former Intercept reporter. Him and a couple of these other guys like made this crazy, I wouldn't say like pivot, but they definitely, lost the plot a little bit. This dude used to do fantastic work on white nationalists and stuff like that. Like white nationalists and radicalization online, and then Lee Fang and him, and I've interviewed Lee as well, and Lee still does fantastic work when it comes to like corporate lobbying and whatnot. But they did kind of lose their minds a little bit on wokeness and how annoying it is and how annoying wokes are, and they kind of did that for the past 4 years, and now, I mean, they never really stopped doing good journalism in the process. Which is interesting. Like they still continue to do good journalism on their own personal, the subject that they cover, their own beats. Like Lee has never stopped doing great journalism when it comes to corporate lobbying. But there are definitely a lot of there's just like a couple things that I have serious disagreements with them on, and regardless of those disagreements, I still obviously appreciate the work that they put out there. And I'm glad that Leighton is seeing that, like, yeah, the culture warriors have been brain broken for quite some time. Yes, liberals get annoying. Okay, liberals do get annoying and have a tendency to be extra annoying and unproductive and engage in like purity spirals or whatever. But this is like unrestricted, unfettered, racism and sexism. That's all it is. Like, look at this. Yeah. Dude, we're not dunking on firefighters. We're just criticizing their leaders. Like, look at that. Yeah, the real woke mind virus has always been right-wing nonsense. Anyway, this is something that Elon Musk just retweeted as well. We pretend to work, they pretend to pay us. Old Soviet Union phrase. Infrastructure failing as absentee staff declare more time, more money. A fire chief focused on human sexuality. A mayor luxuriating in a presidential palace in a foreign country. Symptoms of a common broken system. This is from Barry Weiss's Free Press, which of course is also multi-billionaire backed. Remember, the Free Press is Barry Weiss's institution alongside the Austin University or whatever, the University of Austin, or the fake PragerU style unaccredited institution that she created. Basically, these guys are trying to create their own quote unquote independent outlet online when they're still heavily funded by the same billionaires. It's a grift. Okay. So what are they doing? What is Free Press doing in this crisis? What are they doing? Oh, that's right. They're cutting propaganda. Let's take a look.
Water to put out the Palisades fire. This is the Santa Ynez Reservoir. It's the water supply basically for the Palisades. When they first started fighting the Palisades fire, they ran out of water extremely quickly. Wednesday, 3 a.m., they were basically out. And there's been a lot of talk on why this happened. So how long has this reservoir been empty for?
Since February of last year. There was no communication from the Department of Water and Power to LAFD that there was a water supply issue.
The firefighters, when they started fighting the fires, no one informed them that the reservoir was empty. This reservoir holds 117 million gallons of...
It's what's crazy about this part of the story is like, yeah, the reservoir is empty because of a thing that your donors don't want. Okay. The reservoir is empty because of a thing that your donors don't want to recognize. The thing that like the foreign press, the Free Press's donors don't want to recognize, which is a historically dry wet season that was supposed to bring in at least some semblance of rain, but it never did.
Water. The fire department was using a water
And I'm not even entirely certain that like the fire hydrant water is coming from this reservoir anyway.
supply from 3 backup tanks, each one only holding 1 million gallons of water.
They say it's closed for maintenance to repair the lid that's on top of it. I don't know a lot about reservoir maintenance, but there's literally no...
Wait, what do you mean you don't know a lot about reservoir maintenance? So why are you covering this story? So all you did was just drive over to the reservoir and just show that it's like dumped out? You're not doing journalism then. Investigate, man. Figure it out. Like, this doesn't actually end up informing me at all. It ends up deluding people further.
construction materials or vehicles anywhere in sight. Also, with a reservoir like this, you can refill it or start to refill it. So another question is, if they saw the Santa Ana winds were coming and we have this remarkably dry wet season, why was there no attempt to start refilling it back up? I know I threw a lot out there, but I think we need...
Okay, these are great questions. If you are a real journalist, your job is to either A, go to Gavin Newsom's office and direct Gavin Newsom with these questions, or B, go to people that work in water management, either in the state of California or outside of the state of California, and direct these questions at knowledgeable people to find out what the answer is, rather than leaving it as a question in your commentary where the initial hypothesis is that there's mismanagement about. I don't really understand it, but I'm simply asking questions. Like, you're not a journalist if you do this. You are supposed to not leave these questions. The point of journalism is not to just go, oh, I'm just curious. It's to actually, appease the curiosity that people have. It's to actually go and ask the people who are in positions of power those exact same questions. It's to do some kind of research ahead of time so that when they actually respond to you, you can figure out the inconsistencies in their answers and direct secondary questions. That's what journalism is supposed to be. Can you imagine the old adage of journalism is a journalist's duty is not to hear from one party that it is raining outside and another party that it's not raining outside, and then just write it as though both sides are saying, different things about the rain. A journalist's duty is to open the window and look outside if it's raining or not. Okay? This is akin to basically not even doing any of those things and simply stating, people have a lot of questions on whether it's raining or not outside. I have those questions as well. Homosexuals say that it's not raining outside. What do you guys think? You didn't do journalism. It's so frustrating. And these guys also masquerade as though they're like a reputable news outlet that has some semblance of independence as well, because they're online. Yeah, independent media, by the way. Uber also plans to host an inauguration party in Washington with Elon Musk's ex-social media firm and the Free Press, a media company. OpenAI, Meta, Uber CEOs attend Trump's inauguration events. And the Free Press is also going to be there as well. They're throwing parties. I wonder how that works for their supposed independent status. What a day to be alive for truth telling.
Southern California, as we all experience this together. We know so many tens of thousands of people are under evacuation orders. They are watching this, desperate for information about what is happening to their home. The good news, if you live in this particular neighborhood, is firefighters have made a lot of progress in the last couple hours using...
Can ocean waters used to be fight fires? Just a question. I know the corrosive a long time, but if there's an emergency, yes, and they do use ocean water. The problem with ocean water is that it ends up drying the land even further, so it's a much larger fire risk down the line. It also has the capacity to corrode the fire engines, like the people that are down there that are fighting the fires. It's literally a last resort, which is why it's still devastating, but people have been using that right now. Corrosiveness isn't the bad part. It's salting the earth. I already said that. It's salting the earth, which ends up creating drier vegetation, more fuel down the line. But outside of that, it also is corrosive to everything that's down there, including but not limited to the equipment that's down there. It's a massive issue. It's a massive issue, but it's a last ditch resort.
Family who will be incredibly impacted after losing just about everything. These flames continue to burn, and this is in large part because of the dense fuel.
Gotta love it when Chad does your job, Lamau. What do you mean? I've repeated this over and over again. Michael Moore is the absolute GOAT. Yeah, okay. Let's let's dial this back for a second, and let's take a look at this coverage from last night and this morning.
New flare-ups from the
and updates overall. And there's a Wall Street Journal investigation on what happened with the water supply in California, in Los Angeles specifically. So
Pacific Palisades fire overnight. The toll from these fires growing. At least 11 lives lost. More than 12,000 structures, homes, and businesses damaged or destroyed. More than 55 square miles burned, and more than 150,000 people under evacuation orders.
And the numbers are staggering. And this home security camera capturing the frightening moments flames close in on a home in Altadena that had been evacuated. Embers flying and taking hold, burning the home to the ground.
Just unbelievable devastation there. Here is a look at where the fires are right now. The biggest fires right now are barely contained. We have team coverage, of course. In a moment here, we're going to join residents as they return to their homes now in ruins, figuring out what happens next. But we begin here with the latest on that new flare. Matt Rivers is there. Good morning, Matt.
Yeah, good morning, Gio. We've been struggling really for the past couple days to really describe the scale of destruction. And so what we wanted to do this morning, we put our camera up about 10 or 15 feet off the ground. We want to zoom out and just give you a snapshot of one half.
Are you going to talk about Greenland or anything other than the LA fires? When have I only stuck to speaking about the LA fires? I've quite literally covered Greenland virtually every single day. I covered Greenland every single day, chatter. Every day. This dude literally makes almost like ban and control burns. Idiots, ban, control, burn, get big fire, weird. This dude really makes a living off you people law. Chatter makes shocking discovery about streamers. Chatter makes shocking discovery about Twitch streaming. Realizes that it would be infinitely better if I was a professional media broadcast that was sponsored by Raytheon rather than you, okay? Where I still maintain my editorial independence. You don't actually have to give me anything. If you don't want to, I don't run any ads. The only thing that funds this broadcast is your subscriptions, which you can do for $6 or for free, as a matter of fact. They make money here that literally my town funny. I don't even know what you're talking about. But once again, you don't actually have to subscribe if you don't want to. Okay? It's voluntary. Subscriptions give you some benefits, like being able to send links, being able to use the emotes in general, all around the platform, and sometimes avoid ads if I do run them, but I haven't been running ads since my contract ended. And I think people really appreciate that in general.
Of one block here in Altadena. This was a home here. That was a home behind me. Another home down the block. Every single thing on this half block of Altadena Drive has been completely vaporized in a matter of hours because of that fire. Gio, I've been covering disasters around the world for the better part of 20 years now. It takes a lot to shock me, but what we are seeing here, is truly horrific.
This morning, apocalyptic scenes unfolding across Los Angeles as multiple wildfires blaze through the city.
With all due respect, I think you're being a little too lib-brain by saying there wasn't much Newsom or the mayor could have done to prevent this. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. You're completely misunderstanding my point. I have been incredibly critical of the mismanagement coming especially from Los Angeles County. What you're failing to comprehend in my statement is that these wildfires are so expansive and so fast in how quickly they spread due to 80-mile winds, due to the Santa Ana winds, that even if you had 1 million firefighters, it would be incredibly difficult to keep it under control. There's a reason why even the professional firefighters are saying the same thing. They're saying, like, yes, we are underfunded. Yes, we are underfunded. Yes, it would be better if we had more funds. Yes, there are certain instances where, like, they run out of water. But having said all of that, like, for example, water hydrants, right? This was a major point of contention in the first day. In the Pacific Palisades, they ran out of water on certain water hydrants. People are trying to figure out why that happened, right? In other places, they're talking about how there weren't enough firefighters. There was just like fires ripping through with no firefighters to combat it, okay? And if you listen to the actual firefighters, if you listen to the fire chief, for example, she very openly says, at the end of the day, water hydrants are not fire hydrants are not designed to actually combat a wildfire with 80-mile winds, right? They're designed for structural fires. It's designed to combat structural fires on a city block. If the entire city is on fire, then it doesn't, the water, no matter how many water hydrants you have, you're not going to be able to combat it. If anything, in my opinion, a lot of the mismanagement actually comes in the initial stages of prevention, okay? The prevention and mitigation methods are busted in general. That is a real big problem. Because there's only so much you can do once the fires begin and try to combat them. Having said that, you need to do the best you can. You need to do everything you can to make sure that there are buildings that are up to code. Make sure that there's no dry brush. Like there's so much you can do beforehand. The fire chief is saying that the cuts negatively affect the service in their response to the fires. They're almost out of 1/5 of their vehicles because they had mechanics cut. Well-resourced thread here. Yeah, we're going to talk about all of this. Yes. Obviously, that's why I said I have much more smoke for Karen Bass in particular than I do for California State in general and even Newsom, because I think that their hyper-focus on moving the budget around, absolutely did ruin key aspects of this. Having said that, okay, understand something. Having said that, even if they were completely funded, I don't think that they would still be able to. I don't think that they would still be able to stop all of these wildfires. Okay, that's all I'm stating. My point is that even if they were funded to the gills, there is no proof that they would be able to completely stop all of these wildfires. It's just not. Like at that point, it's just more so about like what you do before these wildfires start. Let's continue.
The Pacific Palisades fire flaring up once again overnight. Stunning aerial footage showing the inferno growing stronger and stronger. Even firefighters fleeing from the scene, forced to leave their vehicles behind. That fire only 8% contained. Massive plumes of smoke filling the air as first responders attack the flames from the ground and from...
Firefighters can't stop the root cause of these massive fires. No, that's not correct either. There's a lot of like, it's called fuel, right? Dry vegetation, and I don't know, like invasive vegetation in general that's like flammable. All of that stuff, all of that, like communicating that to every single person in a at-risk area and ensuring that people actually take the proper steps ahead of time to make sure that they clear out their area, they clear out their neighborhoods of all of that flammable material is something that the fire department could communicate. The problem is, if we're already mismanaging funds, okay? If we're already mismanaging funds, that's going to be an afterthought. Like that kind of stuff, the public-facing communication stuff, or the forced upkeep of supply lines, for example, like the power lines, ensuring that the brush and the vegetation that is overgrown on top of the power lines that are swinging wildly during wind seasons, like all of that is an afterthought because it's invisible until it becomes a massive problem, until it becomes a major issue. And even then, we still don't actually do enough power line maintenance, for example, because that's just how it works. That's just how capitalism works. It's easier for these utility providers to, pay out these massive lawsuits after the fact, after, hundreds of people, thousands of people lose their homes and hundreds of people die, even like in the Campfire fire where 85 people died, right? It's easier for these utility companies to basically just, pay out the victims after a long and arduous legal process, rather than, especially because there's no criminal punishments for the people responsible for this kind of cost cutting. It's much easier for them to just not do the maintenance and then pay off after the fact. Interface risks are a known issue from firefighters, but people with nice houses resist because of the landscaping aesthetic. Not disagreeing, by the way. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But that's like, again, local governance. Like, you're supposed to enforce these things no matter what.
In the sky. It's just one of many wildfires scorching through California. At least 11 people dead, including, according to the New York Times, 80...
That's not true. Utility companies get into so much debt if they're having to pay big dollars in fire lawsuits. Okay, well, they've already done the math. They consider it to be better for their profit margins, especially if they're short-term focused. I hate to correct you, but it isn't cheaper to pay out after these disasters. Yeah, no, it's a short-term bet. You're right. Thank you. That's correct. It is a short-term bet. They're short-term profit seeking. So for them, they would rather ensure that they don't do the proper upkeep and hope that it never, gets out of hand. And then they end up getting bailed out regardless. So it doesn't matter, because there's no interest from any local or state official to actually take over these utilities, usually, even after decades of mismanagement. So they're just like, all right, whatever. You did stock buybacks instead of proper upkeep with the additional funds that you had, even after increasing prices, for example. Well, all right, it's fine. It's not like we can take it over. The other thing is, we could have stopped these wildfires, or at least hardened the city to make it far more resistant. Yes.
22-year-old Rodney Nickerson, retired pharmacy technician Erliane Kelly, and 66-year-old Victor Shaw, who stayed to fight the fire.
And I opened the front door and I just yelled in, "Victor, we got to get out. This is it. We have to get out. The fire's here." And I didn't hear him say anything. I heard him say nothing.
The authorities warning they won't know the true toll until they can safely enter those ravaged neighborhoods. In Altadena and Pasadena, the Eaton fire blazing on. The Hearst fire, the Lydia fire, the Kenneth fire, and the newest fire to break out, the Archer fire, also all still burning. In total, so far across Los Angeles, more than 150,000 people under evacuation orders, and more than 12,000 structures, homes and businesses damaged or destroyed.
This is just a devastating view as we fly over Pacific Palisades. You can see down below just how quickly these fires spread.
Satellite imagery showing the extent of the destruction. Entire city blocks
It's
erased
insane.
from the landscape. Streets lying silent in the aftermath. Burned out husks, the only things left standing. These before and after images painting a chilling picture of vibrant communities reduced to ash. Neighborhood after neighborhood burned to the ground. Residents slowly making their return, only to find out they've lost everything.
Look at that. There's nothing we can do. It's gone. This is total and utter devastation.
Charles Nelson, a longtime resident of Altadena, the fire decimating his home.
You know, it was our dream home. You know,
A lot of people also don't understand that, like, you know, the fire is more impactful than just like losing your shelter, which is obviously devastating, right? Your life is completely destabilized at that point. But more importantly than that, you lose remnants of your humanity, things that tie you to your loved ones, you know, your prized possessions. Like, this is where you keep all of your things. Okay, it's not just your paperwork, you can replace that, but there are irreplaceable things that you have in your house. You know, things that were left behind from your loved ones that no longer are with you, you know, things that connect you to them. John Mayer actually had a really good point on this, and I reposted it on my Instagram. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. I think it was really good. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Here's what he said. This is the most valuable thing I own. It's a folder of photos of my father, spanning his life from being a baby, an educator, a husband, and a father. It's the only evidence of his life that will exist over time. These are the documents you read about people taking from their homes. When you hear someone say they've lost everything in a fire, this is much of that everything, if not all of it. Those who say they'll be okay still have their folders and their albums. Those who are inconsolable have lost them. Just behind the immeasurable loss of life is the loss of the proof of life. I don't practice prayer, but tonight I will say one for everyone who no longer has these items. It's not about the art and the collectibles. It's the photos, the letters, the class rings, the eyeglasses, and the things that we keep us, the things that we keep to remind us that those we loved were here. May those who have lost so much find some semblance of hope and support from their family and friends. Stay safe, look out for one another and yourself, and trust that humanity and all it entails, though sometimes hard to see, is alive and well. This is truly devastating. It's true. Like, when your house burns down in a fire, a lot of people immediately start thinking like, oh, well, you know, you're devoid of shelter. But like, outside of the material realities, there is something immaterial, something infinitely more consequential for a lot of people. Things that remind them of their loved ones, you know, that are no longer with them, like all of these cherished possessions. It's you know, it's genuinely devastating. People don't realize that after the fire's over, there's a grueling, awful process that takes years sometimes to get these houses rebuilt. Yeah, just verifying who owns what is a whole nightmare, and then insurance companies come in before you're allowed to even go into the homes. That's just the start. Yes, there's also opportunists at every step. There are opportunists that have already started the real looting process, okay? People who are, one, trying to immediately offer cash for the existing lots in people's weakest moments, okay? That's number one. Number two, you have price gougers in the rental market. Come February 1st, this is going to be a gigantic problem in Los Angeles. If it's not combated adequately, you will see the housing market go out of control even more than it was. Okay? You are going to see the real looting, not the poor people that are messing around or are you know, trying to take advantage of the crisis to steal a television or something, okay? The real looting will happen at the point of banks, private equity, and the real estate market, okay? That is where the real looting will occur. The real looting will also occur on the insurance side as well. Just remember that. But you will not hear that. You will never hear about that in the news, okay? They'll maybe begrudgingly point to it every now and then. And it's already started, especially because the Pacific Palisades is like a relatively well-off neighborhood. A lot of the surrounding areas that have homes intact, single-family homes intact, are putting up rental properties that are double the already inflated rental market prices. If a single-family home for like 6 people to 8 people is going for $10,000 a month normally, which is already insanely inflated, right? Now it's going for $30,000 a month. I've seen it.
And you see the ash on the cars. Yep. You see it everywhere, and this is so toxic. We spoke again to a health expert and a doctor about the unhealthy, very dangerous air quality actually outside, particularly for those who have any upper respiratory
the fires haven't even the fires haven't even been put down, and there's still people doing craziness
if you have some kind
like
of
that.
disease, this is just detrimental. And if you don't, this can certainly cause those kinds of things. So we encourage you to limit your activity outside. Just get in your car and go and get to where you need to go. I had a call from my son's coach about basketball practice, and I said, no, absolutely not. Unless you're inside in a gym. This is just very bad air quality all across the board, not just where the fires are burning, but across SoCal from Ventura South into Orange County, the Inland Empire. I heard you talk about the most destructive and the cost. I looked up these numbers here. Campfire is where we go, right, with the #1 deadliest, costliest fire in the state of California. And that burned, over 18 structures, almost 20,000 structures. Eaton Fire is the second one with 7,000 structures right now. Tubbs Fire in 2017, you might remember that. Palisades now, I added the 1 because we saw with our very own eyes as it burned that home. Yep. So over 5,000 structures, but some preliminary estimates, which, by the way, the Camp Fire, they've been talking about maybe $12.5 billion.
Yeah, and that's Paradise for people that may be more familiar with that town of Paradise that was basically wiped off the map in that moment.
So many, hundreds of people died in that fire. They've adjusted for inflation to something like $12.5 billion. But now when we talk about the Palisades fire, where you see those multi-million-dollar homes, I mean, just the fires together, they're saying some estimates of 150 billion, potentially, dollars lost in these fires. So it's just staggering.
Yeah.
Staggering.
It is. I tried to get a specific answer from Governor Newsom on that, and he said it's way too early to tell, and if we start throwing around numbers, everybody's just sort of guessing. But he said, because he had been to the Camp Fire at Paradise with President Trump, the head of CAL FIRE I talked to also yesterday had been to the Camp Fire, and they both said that what you see in Pacific Palisades is actually worse. When you look at the scope of it, that it's the worst fire that they've ever been to.
Wow.
And in terms of just the scene and how upsetting it is to see it up close.
I have, I'm from Hawaii. You guys know that. I've had some messages naturally from my friends in Hawaii, and they are triggered right now, especially when you think about the Maui fire and the Lahaina fire. And they're just also triggered, and of course they're all worried for our safety. We have such a huge
She said don't play basketball. Chat, I looked up the AQI, okay?
And they
I didn't play basketball this morning without looking up the air quality index. Calm down.
Devastation which continues. Look at these fires. The winds are going to get stronger. We talked about that. This is sort of that window where the winds are not so bad. They're definitely gusty at times, and there's definitely pockets of some stronger gusts that are coming in. And we're under this wind advisory. This portion right here, the Palisades fire, parts of the Santa Monica Mountains, extending into the San Gabriel Mountains. That includes the Eaton fire. These winds are coming out of the northeast, and they are gusting closer to between 40-45 miles per hour. Now, later tonight, at 6 p.m., we are anticipating a slightly stronger, at least the start of some stronger winds, and high wind warnings will be going into effect in this area here. So firefighters I know are considering that, and there's a strategic plan, I'm sure. They're the best in the country here, if not the world, and they are, they had some backfires earlier.
Let's talk now more about the strategy. Eric Scott, the captain with the LA Fire Department, is joining us live on the phone right now. Thank you for your tireless work on this. We appreciate the daily apparently, we just lost his phone signal, Maria. As we know, phone signal in this area are so challenging.
Yeah, Captain Eric Scott working tirelessly since the beginning. We talked to him when this started Tuesday morning, when it erupted, when the winds were just beginning to get strong. And I remember him saying how, if you see something, say something, because if you do not extinguish a fire or get to it within the first 20 minutes with the weather conditions we were in, it was going to explode exponentially, and that's exactly what it did.
Exactly.
Gigi Graciette has reestablished her shot. She moved to a different location there within the Palisades fire in Mandeville Canyon. Gigi, where are you? What can you tell us?
We're on Cordelia here in Mandeville Canyon, and joining me now live, Battalion Chief Brent Pasqua with CAL FIRE. He's obviously keeping a close eye on the fire. We are again on Cordelia, right above Mandeville Canyon. I mean, this has just been an intense firefight.
That's right. You can see the coordinated effort we have with the firefighters on the ground, working with our aviation assets, the helicopters, the large air tankers, dropping retardant, doing everything we can to protect these houses down below.
Now, we were talking, you and I, about those very large air tankers. We're talking about CAL FIRE assets. You brought in that very large air tanker contracted for this specific fire. And actually, I even see a hand crew way down there on the hillside. I don't know, Armando Hernandez, photographer, before I go back to you, Brent, if you can pan over to the left, actually down there in the bushes, we see hand crews. That is extremely challenging work.
Yeah, that's part of the attack. We go direct on this fire line. We cut fire line directly on it while the aircraft drop above us and slow the fire down.
And, you know, folks that are watching, obviously they're evacuated. Most have left. Some have stayed behind. They may be watching us right now. They may live right here on Cordelia. Describe to me what is going on up the street. I see strike teams basically stationed at every single house to protect that home.
That's right. We've really surged our resources into this area. We don't want to lose any more houses. That is our #1 goal. We don't want anything like we saw the first 2 days of this fire. These conditions are way more favorable. We're used to fighting fire like this, so we're ready to take the fight to the fire.
Wait, are fires still happening? Yes, brother. They haven't stopped at all. Isn't Southern California naturally supposed to be a desert? I heard that they're taking water from the north and that it dries the north. True. It is, yes, there are parts of California that are a desert. Yes.